as well. This month, all month long, we have been reading aloud, and in place of our reading, we have been reading aloud together my prayer for my country. This is the last Sunday that we will engage in this activity together, and so what I invite you to do is just read with such power and such conviction that this is the truth of our country. Please join me. It's on a little card in your bulletin, or it will be on the screen behind me, My Prayer for My Country by Ernest Holmes. Believing in the divine destiny of the United States of America and in the preservation of liberty, security, and self-expression for all, I offer this, my prayer for my country. I know that divine intelligence governs the destiny of the United States of America, directing the thought and the activity of all who guide its affairs. I know that success, prosperity, and happiness are the gifts of freedom and are the divine heritage of everyone in this country. I know that success, prosperity, and happiness are now operating in the affairs of every individual in this country. I know that divine guidance enlightens the collective mind of the people of this country, causing it to know that economic security may come to all without the loss of either personal freedom or individual self-expression. I know that no one can believe or be led to believe that freedom must be surrendered in order to ensure economic security for all. The all-knowing mind contains the answer to every problem which confronts this country. I know that every leader in this country is now directed by this all-knowing mind and has the knowledge of a complete solution to every problem. Each is compelled to act upon this knowledge to the end that abundance, security, and peace shall come to all. And I know that this spiritual democracy shall endure, guaranteeing to everyone in this country personal liberty, happiness, and self-expression, and so it is. Hallelujah. It's possible, you guys. We can live in this country. It's possible if we will know it, if we will vote from it, if we will live from it. And so it is, amen. I'm going to read today's affirmation through once, and then I'll invite you to join me. I am at liberty to choose my experience of life, and I choose to wake up. Truth and justice call me to a deeper understanding of freedom, my birthright, humanity's birthright, and I claim freedom for myself and for everyone. I stand in truth, and truth sets me free, and so it is. Please stand and join me with conviction. I am at liberty to choose my experience of life, and I choose to wake up. Truth and justice call me to a deeper understanding of freedom, my birthright, humanity's birthright, and I claim freedom for myself and for everyone. I stand in truth, and truth sets me free, and so it is. Beloved Becca Palm, yes? Thank you. I see glory on each face. I see glory in your eyes. I see glory in your heart. I see glory in your soul. That is the spiritual truth of you. Glory is your nature. Good is your nature. Freedom is your nature, who you are. Who you are is the divine in expression. And you cannot be separate from that. You know, we try and make ourselves separate from that, don't we? We do everything we can possibly do to make ourselves miserable. And yet the persistent nature of the infinite within keeps pressing against our hearts, calling us forward to something greater. It keeps calling us and saying, express more of me, be more of as I am. Fill your heart with love, with power, with grace. Know that you are free to choose whom you will serve. Oh, what? That's right out of the Bible, you guys, I know. Choose now who you will serve. Pain and anxiety, love, freedom, grace. Which will you serve? We're talking all month about freedom. You know, traditionally in July we talk about freedom, don't we? Because it's the month that we celebrate freedom as a country and as a culture. But I want to redefine freedom a little bit for us. We say that the dictionary tells us that freedom is the state of being free. It is a state of being at liberty rather than in confinement. There is a spiritual idea that we confine ourselves to small ideas. We confine ourselves by tying ourselves to the stake of small ideas. But the fact is, we seek to be free. That's what the call is. That's what the push is. Reverend Michael Beckwith says, the pain pushes until the vision calls. What I want to do today is plant a vision of freedom for you and for your life that will call you out of your pain and into a complete awareness that the nature of the divine simply wants to be right where you are. In fact, it already is. Will you allow it to flow? Will you allow it to live you? Will you rest in a state of liberty, a state of no confinement by releasing any ideas that keep you stuck in the old patterns? You see, this is the entire spiritual quest, isn't it? We all want to be more free. We all want to be more free. We play this quest out over and over again. The conditions that surround us, that would seem to limit us, that would seem to hold us back, are simply an opportunity for us to allow ourselves to be lifted into a bigger idea, to get a new thought. We have the freedom to think as we please. This is today's message, think as you please. You have the freedom to think any old way you want. That is our right. The same God that is calling us forth to a greater something gave us the right to choose not to go there. That's what freedom is. Somebody asked me the other day, well, why would God do that? Well, do you want to be an automaton? Do you want to be a robot? I don't. I want to live a life of choice. And I choose freedom. I choose grace. I choose love. And that choice only has meaning if I could choose not freedom, if I could choose bondage, if I could choose hate, if I could choose separation and duality. The choice for love only means something if I have to choose it. Does that make sense? You know, I used to work in the field of domestic violence and sexual assault as an advocate and a trainer, and one of the things that we used to say is, your yes has no meaning until no is an option. Your yes has no meaning unless no is an option. We choose. Your choice has no meaning unless you can make some other choice. And we are endowed with the right of free will. And we can choose love or we can choose unlove. We can choose freedom or we can choose bondage. My choice for freedom only has meaning because bondage is an option. So you get to think any way you want. Have you ever said this? Well, I don't like people telling me what to do. Ever? Anybody? I have. Right? And sometimes we make our choices out of, well, they told me to do that, so I'm going to do this. Anybody? Is this familiar to anyone? Don't tell me to do that. I don't care if that's what's best for me. I'm going to do this because you told me to do that. Do you see how that's not a choice, is it? That's allowing our circumstance to drive us. See, we can choose, we can think whatever we want. What I want to encourage you to do is to think life-affirming thoughts. To practice holding life-affirming beliefs. Think whatever you want. Think whatever you want. You can think as you please. I encourage you to think life-affirming beliefs. You know, we know this is true. This is textbook unity, isn't it? Life is done unto you as you believe. It's textbook Jesus. It is done unto you as you believe, right? That's the core of our teaching. And here's the thing. I mean, I believe that. I live it to the best of my ability. If I could really do that, like today, 100%, there would be no reason for us to ever even come together in spiritual community or be on a spiritual journey or do spiritual practice. See, the journey is really learning that. We can learn the words overnight. The journey is learning to live from the understanding that it is done unto us as we believe. We don't always know how to think in ways that will produce life-affirming results, do we? It's interesting. Mary Mann Morrissey, I'm pretty sure it was, said that mental activity is not thinking. How often do you engage in mental activity? And how often are you actually really thinking? Critically examining, thinking about thinking, meta-thinking. We think of that as meta-thinking sometimes. Thinking about, what am I thinking? Einstein said this. He said 5% of people think. 10% of people think that they think. 85% would rather die than think. 85% of us would rather die. And you see, thinking is a spiritual process. It's a spiritual practice. 85% of us would rather be spiritually dead than think. And I got to tell you, I have moments where, forget it. I'm so not going to go there today. I just cannot be spiritual today. I'm so over it. Right? Do you do this? It's too hard. But that's a thought. Did you hear me? That's a thought. It's too hard. I can't do it. I don't understand. I don't get it. Is a thought. Those are all thoughts. Think as you please. Think as you please. We have the right to think as we please, to do as we please, to believe as we please. But if we're going to say that, let's think about, what does that word please mean? I learned something interesting about this word. The way we use please, please cut me an apple, actually is a short form of, if it pleases you, cut me an apple. It just got kind of contracted to please. Please cut me an apple. If it pleases you, cut me an apple. Please means to give satisfaction, to give pleasure, to give contentment, to make or cause someone to be glad. If it causes you to be glad, cut me an apple. If it gives you satisfaction, cut me an apple. The root word means to give pleasure to, and it's rooted in the words for calm, for quiet, and placenta and please are related. Isn't that cool? Placenta, nourishment, right? It nourishes us to engage in pleasing behavior. So we have the freedom to engage in pleasing thinking, pleasing behavior, to think as we please, to do as we please, to believe as we please. Free people, we must think on that which is pleasing, that which gives satisfaction, that which gives nourishment, that which gives comfort. We must think on that which is pleasing. We must think toward and into that which gives ourselves and others pleasure, what calms and soothes, what nourishes. And I turned to the book of Philippians to think about what is pleasing. What is pleasing thought? Now, the book of Philippians, the thought is that Paul the Apostle Paul was in prison in Rome, and he was writing to the Philippians because the church was behaving badly. People weren't loving one another. And he was writing with them. He was writing to them with counsel because he founded the church. And he was writing to them with his wisdom. And here's what he said. Whatsoever things are true, whatever things are honest, whatever things are just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. That's a pretty clear recipe, isn't it? Think on these things. Think on what is true. Nobody loves me. Is that true? That is not true. Oh, it's hard to get a job. I can't get a job. Is that true? That's not true. Oh, I'm too tired to do it. Is that true? No, think on what is true. The spiritual truth is, I am a fountain of energy and life. The power and the presence and love of God moves through me. That is the spiritual truth. I am endowed with skills and gifts that somebody wants to pay me for. It's easy for me to find a job. That's the spiritual truth. Whatever things are true, think on that. Don't lie to yourself. Whatever things are honest, think on that. Whatever things are just, justice, fairness, equity, equality, think on that. Now, I'm kind of noticing a little lack of justice in our culture right now. Anybody else? Think on that which is just. You see, what we're tending to do, that I see, what we're tending to do is sit in our chairs and look at Facebook and blame the perpetrators. Is that really helpful? No, making someone else wrong will never heal the planet, because that is not true. We must think on that which is true. We are all created in the image and likeness of the infinite. Then, yeah, some of us behave better than others, right? But that's just because they're not thinking on what's true. They're not thinking on what's just. They're not thinking on what's honest. They're not thinking on in ways that are pleasing, that give satisfaction and nourishment. That's all. Let's not make them wrong for that. 10 years ago, that was me. It's not healing. It doesn't heal. We must think on that which is just. And we must be just toward those who are perpetrating crimes as well. And to recognize that our job is to envision this country, this world that works for everyone, this prayer, that this is the kind of community we live in, and then we put on our boots and we get out there and we work for it. Adversarial will just get us more adversarial. Our call is to be love, is to think on that which is just, to think on that which is pure, that which is lovely. One of the translations I read this morning of this section said, think on that which is beautiful. Beautiful. You know, just bring to mind right now something that to you is beautiful. Maybe it's the face of someone you love, a garden. What came to mind for me was my cat. And take a deep breath and breathe into that image in your mind. And do you feel your body begin to calm? Do you feel yourself beginning to move into a more pleasing state of awareness as you think on that which is beautiful? Whatsoever things are of good report. What things are praiseworthy? When we think on the things that are praiseworthy, what things in your life are praiseworthy? You see, the fact is, the spiritual truth of you is, you are a child of the infinite. You are a child of light. And as a child of light, your responsibility is to choose to walk in the light. The command from Ephesians is to walk as children of light. Do not participate in the darkness. Walk in the light. Also in Ephesians, it talks about do not be drunk with wine. Get drunk on God. Isn't that beautiful? And it's not saying don't drink wine. Those people drank wine, let me tell you. Remember, one of Jesus' miracles was turning water into wine, right? Okay, so that's not about not drinking wine. It's about getting drunk on something worthy of being drunk on, like God. That is, read, walk, talk, think, practice spiritual principle. Get drunk on that. Weave around in that. Hafiz, the Sufi mystic poet Hafiz is one of my favorites. And this morning when I was thinking about being drunk on God, I thought, and I think he's got a poem about that. And I looked it up and I found it. And here it is. Are you ready? Here's what he tells us. He says, if you don't stop that. That's the name of the poem. If you don't stop that. Hafiz says, I used to live in a cramped house with confusion and pain. But then I met the friend. The friend is his word for God. But then I met the friend and started getting drunk and singing all night. Confusion and pain started acting nasty, making threats, saying things like, if you don't stop that, we're leaving. If you don't stop getting drunk on God, confusion and pain are going to leave. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. See, we say we want to release our confusion and pain, don't we? But will we engage in the practice? Will we get drunk on God? Will we read and walk and think and talk spiritual principle? Will we engage in self-talk that is life-affirming? Will you stop beating up on yourself? Will you stop saying bad things about yourself and about other people? Will you engage in ways of being that support a bigger idea for your life and support a bigger idea for the planet? Instead of complaining about our government, will you start reciting my prayer for my country every time you feel tempted to complain about our government? And then pull up your boots and get out there and do something about it. But do something about it from a consciousness of being pleasing, of providing satisfaction, from a consciousness of walking in the light and the spiritual truth of who you are. And in order to do that, you guys, we got to do a few things. We have to surround ourselves with thinking people who will support us. And that's what spiritual community is about, isn't it? It supports us in walking and talking and thinking and reading and practicing the spiritual truth of ourselves. We must surround ourselves with those who are willing to be vulnerable with us, who are willing to go deep with us, who are willing to look at the dark side with us and be present to exactly what's happening. And then lift ourselves with a more pleasing idea, an idea of justice, of beauty, of truth, of honesty. How you doing so far? Is this how you'd like to live? I would like to live in a more pleasing consciousness, a consciousness that gives greater satisfaction. I would like to work to change the world from a place of knowing that who I am is the infinite. And I am here to express more and more of that in the world and to support others also in that realization and in that expression. And that whatsoever is just and pure and holy and true, whatsoever is beautiful and lovely, of good report, whatsoever is praiseworthy, this is from where I live. Join me. Say yes. Yes. We got a text from the infinite saying, great idea. I'm in. I'm in. So think as you please. You get to think whatever you want. And as Emma Curtis Hopkins told us, believe what you want and report your results. Right? You get to believe whatever you want and let me know how that's going. Life-affirming, thinking and believing that supports the greater expression of good and love and power and grace and freedom in the world and harms no one. Whatsoever is good, whatsoever is praiseworthy, this is who we are called to be. Think as you please, and I encourage you to anchor in the pleasing idea of what is nourishing, what is good, what will bring forth greater good, even greater good. So let's seal this message. Let's turn within and begin to breathe into a greater understanding of who and whose we are. And breathe into an awareness that the infinite is breathing you now. And breathe into the awareness that every breath is the very breath of the infinite. Every breath, the breath of God. And as you breathe, you feel the cells in your body simply become energized with this awareness. You feel yourself opening more fully than you ever have before to the truth of who you are. And as you breathe in, you feel an expansion in your physical body. You feel the boundaries beginning to fade. You feel the pores of your body opening to the greater idea, the greater truth, that there is an energy, a life, a presence, the living one, the strong one. We are created in its image and likeness. It is right where we are. And as it is, we are. And it is love, and it is freedom, and it is power, and it is grace. And we are embodiments of this love, this freedom, this power, this grace. And as you anchor in this idea, simply bring to mind any thinking you have been engaging in that has been nurturing pain and confusion. Any ways of being that have been calling forth an experience that is not fulfilling and satisfying and nurturing for you. How have you been thinking? What have you been nurturing that has not been life-affirming? And you simply allow the awareness to make itself known, gracefully and graciously accepting the information, judgment or shame, releasing any sense, simply noticing what you have been given, the wisdom you have been given, and blessing the awareness. And as you rest in the awareness of these ways of being or thinking that have not been serving you, ask yourself now, am I willing to let them go? Am I willing to get a new thought? Am I willing to lift myself in the conscious awareness of the good that I am? Am I willing to think on that which is just, that which is true, that which is honest, that which is beautiful? And perhaps you are, and perhaps you're not. And perhaps a part of you wants to. Anchor in that part of you and affirm, it is easy for me to release that which no longer serves me. Begin to think of that thought. and embrace your willingness to think on that which is pleasing. And begin to watch these old ideas fade away into the nothingness from which they came. They simply break up in your consciousness, gently, easily disappearing. And you simply allow to rush into the empty space created in mind, thoughts of love, of grace, of that which is pure, that which is holy, that which is beautiful, that which is true. You are the infinite in expression, and it is calling you forth to something wonderful. And right now you mentally put on your boots and you ask yourself, what is mine to do to make the world a better place? To infect the world with pleasing thoughts, to support my community in learning and growing, in evolving into a world that works for everyone. And simply see yourself moving forward in this way of being. Joining me, joining your spiritual community and making a difference. And now give thanks. Give thanks for the awareness. Give thanks for the release. Give thanks for the opening to something greater than you are, moving you and breathing you and living you now. And allow this gratitude to power your journey. And so I close this message with a grateful heart, knowing that we have indeed been transformed by the renewing of our minds, and that the spirit of all life is right where we are. And so it is. Amen.